I came across this YouTube video and someone is talking about putting their entire portfolio into the Yieldmax fund, covered call fund MSTY, which tracks MicroStrategy. So I know this is probably satire, at least in part, but I think it's good to get a different perspective and maybe, some counterpoints. I would rather someone be at least a little critical about something that they have in their portfolio and not be a total fanboy, well, okay, I'm a fanboy, but I think it's good to get a different perspective and at least listen to opposing opinions. So that's good. So I'm just gonna read some of the comments in the video and then I'm going to respond to them. Should I go all in on MSTY in 2025? Where will Bitcoin be the next 10 years? Up and to the right, he says emphatically. Hence, own MSTY only during the bulls. Okay, but yeah, a lot of people are saying, and I'm kind of the opinion that Bitcoin cycle has changed and we're not going to see huge drops like we had before because of countries buying into Bitcoin, the ETFs. There's so much money coming from institutions that the cycle that we had in the past just isn't going to happen anymore. So, but we'll see how that plays out. There's of course going to be drops. No one's saying that, but I don't know that there's going to be those times where, we're going to have like a drop down to 50K again. That's probably a more realistic outlook on the future of Bitcoin. Would never short MicroStrategy. That's even more dangerous than holding MSTY long term. Oh yeah, absolutely. I would never try to short it. There might be times where it seems like a good idea, but yeah, it's going to go up more than it goes down. Okay, I have 10K in MSTY, but I also have 35K in MSTR. I believe in Bitcoin and willing to ride out the volatility. MSTY price will go up and down, but over next 20 years will go up. You either understand Bitcoin or you don't. The volatility should remain at least for the present term, the next few years. I think there's a chance in the future, but I think this is way far into the future where the volatility can go down and it will plateau more. But that may not even happen in my lifetime. I'm not overly concerned about it. Vote for my $1,000 tomorrow. He must have quite a few shares. This might not be a long-term hold, but hell yeah, for the next few months, passive income is nice for the time being. I don't know why you would think that there's going to be a problem long-term. I don't know. Could be. I think after next week, crypto-friendly administration, this is a long-term hold. Well, it's definitely more crypto-friendly than the last administration we had, for sure. I agree with your allocation. I'm 98% MicroStrategy and 2% MSTY. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Hey, if you want to go mostly growth, that's great. Maybe they don't need added income. Just don't sell MicroStrategy. Well, you want to take profits from, here and there. I don't agree with that. I think there's times where you need to take profits, and at some point you're going to be selling. Otherwise, what the hell are you doing, right? Stocks are meant to be sold at some point. Unless you want to borrow against it. That's the only caveat. If you want to borrow against it, yeah, that's a great way to go too. My largest holding in Roth and simple IRAs, been holding and buying MicroStrategy for 2 years now. Got in pretty early, pretty good. Sailor's King, MSTY is in my taxable brokerage for monthly income. Right, so a lot of people will say that like, oh, well, this is only good in your IRA, but kind of the point of it is to live off of the income. So yeah, I get the argument on both sides, but I really think it's made for income, and there's nothing wrong with putting a little bit in an IRA though. If you think MSTY will continue to go up and you're ignoring NAV erosion and you haven't done enough research, well, there's no NAV erosion. That's just wrong. Okay, so when it debuted, it was around $20, and this was a year ago because it was February 2024. And now it's sitting at $26.85. Let's do the math. 20 up to 26.85. I don't see NAV erosion. What are you talking about? Volatile, yeah, if you want to say it's volatile, of course it is. Everyone knows that. There hasn't been to this point. I put $185,000 into MSTY. Your dividend will increase and decrease. Of course, I say that all the time. It's volatile and it's variable. That dividend is variable. It's designed to pay you a monthly income. Bitcoin doesn't pay you a monthly income. Yeah, well, I thought that was pretty obvious. There's no guarantee MSTY will pay you a dividend. I understand the appeal, though. He's actually right about that. If you read the prospectus, the dividends are not guaranteed. Now, there hasn't been a month where they didn't pay, but still, it's there in writing. And if you look at any of these options trading funds, in the prospectus, it'll always state that. Like, there's no guarantee. A company can't guarantee a dividend either. There's some with great track records, but it's not guaranteed, okay? It's coming out of the profits and the earnings from the company, so they can get cut. Some are more likely than others. You twisted my words. I never said it would last forever. Please learn to discern what people say and don't be blinded by fear of stepping outside the box, so to speak. If MSTY goes away, there will be 10 or more other funds to replace it. I don't know what could replace MicroStrategy in a covered call fund. What would that be? I have no idea what could replace it. I kind of disagree with that. High yield ETFs are here to stay. That I agree with. Everyone's getting on board. Goldman Sachs is in. A lot of the big brokerages are in. Charles Schwab has been in for a long time. Billions of money is being put into them. Yeah, a lot of assets under management, not just in MSTY. A lot of these funds have a lot of assets. If you like getting 3% on your money, so be it. Stop distorting what your opponents say already. I think he's just saying be reasonable about this. You can get, quote unquote guaranteed money for very low. This guy says 3%. Well, normally it's like 4 or 5% bonds, and you don't have that risk. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think he's saying, that nothing is guaranteed. And yeah, that's true. Technically that's true. Bitcoin also doesn't drop by the amount of dividends each cycle while we are left waiting for it to sink again. Bitcoin is moving up now while MSTY is now down $2.27 per share that they paid out in dividends, but it is not moving up with Bitcoin as it was before the dividend. Well, that all has to do with the fund managers and the strike prices. They have to get the strike prices right. If the price of the underlying MSTR shoots above the strike price, then you could lose out on the NAV, so you won't, all those capital gains from the NAV. So that does sometimes happen, but that's just a case of getting the strike prices right. It isn't even predictable given perfect knowledge of Bitcoin movement, but hey, I have a toe in these waters. Yeah, it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard to get those strike prices right on something so volatile, which is why I don't really want to do it myself. If they have proven that they can do it over the course of a year, I trust them more than I'd probably trust myself, to be honest. MSTY stopping their yield seems a pretty arbitrary point to focus on. I don't know what he means by stopping their yield. Lowering their yield? Yeah, that will happen month to month. It also might go up too. And so unlikely that it is not worth worrying about. I think people should be worried about MSTR dropping like a rock, which it will as soon as there's a Bitcoin correction, which will happen. How big of a correction? Are we talking a 50% correction? I'm not so sure about that. We'll see. It is leveraged though. So if Bitcoin, drops 20, MicroStrategy stock's going to drop a lot more than 20. Almost like there may be a correlation between the two. There is definitely a correlation. All you have to do is reinvest the distributions less 8% of your total value. You reinvest to earn more money in the future and live off that 8% revenue stream. Yeah, so he's talking about the withdrawal rate. Now, a lot of people have switched from the old 4% rule to now the new 8% rule, so it doubled. Some people will say, no, that's not accurate. You need to stay with the 4% or maybe the 5% rule. But what they're saying is they just reinvest like I tell you to do. If you have huge distributions like this and you're getting paid thousands of dollars a month, hopefully you're not spending all that cash and you're going to reinvest. Now, whether it's less than 8% or not, I think you need to reinvest something into these though to kind of maintain that principle. But a lot of people use that kind of as a rule of thumb, that they only take out 8% and then they reinvest the rest. Save and buy when a dip happens. Drip may purchase when too high, but again, a drip is free money, so it doesn't matter in the, I don't know what he means it's free money. I don't know if I agree with that. That is true though. If you drip it, you may not get it at the ideal price. I think to do it manually is better, but at the same time, some people, they don't want to log into their broker and look at their IRA every month. They just want to drip it. I think it's fine for the most part. It's not optimal, but I think it's okay to do for most people if they just don't want to bother. Instead of drip, you can buy shares with cash secured put contracts. I've talked about that. I have a video about that. Yes, it's a great way to go. Cash secured puts. If you don't know how to do them, look into it. MSTY was 10% of my portfolio, and it outperformed my 50% SCHG, which is very, very popular ETF, 10% straight treasuries, and destroyed my 20% SCHV, 10% SCHD, which is also a very popular dividend stock. Misled that value would outshine in 2024. Boy, it didn't. I probably will move more into MSTY. Yes, it's outperforming all those assets, and those assets are very, very popular with, more, let's just say, more traditional dividend investors and income investors. I know SCHD is index based, so it's basically an index of dividend stocks. So yeah, but they're not gonna, it's a lot lower yield. I'm not sure, I don't think it's even 4% at this point. It's somewhere around there, like 3-4% last I checked. Hope it works out for you. Nothing wrong with cashing in your chips. Okay, well, he kind of has to agree with that. I carved out a 15% allocation to CLOZ and SGov. I believe that's a treasury ETF, government treasuries, using that as collateral to sell conservative CSPs on IBIT and MicroStrategy. I rolled down and out as needed and used the premium earned to buy MSTY and BTCI. Yeah, that's great. You could do your own, covered calls and then use that premium to buy into something that just does it passively for you. That's a good idea. No issues taking assignment on a major pullback and then selling aggressive calls until the shares are called away. I completely agree with you. Also, Misty was my best performer last year. Don't worry, it's like 1.5% of my portfolio. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of, if you don't totally trust in something, don't make it 20% of your portfolio. Don't go nuts with it. 1.5, perfectly reasonable. If that's all the exposure someone wants to Bitcoin, so be it. So anyway, I think it's good to, have someone else's perspective. And even though they may be kind of against it, some of our ideas of how to invest, I think it's good to at least consider what they have to say. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And some of the things people are saying here, I think it's spot on. I think some people have some good ideas. I think some people are flat out wrong in other ways. And I think some people are speculating too much about the future price movement of Bitcoin, assuming that it acts the same as it did in the past. And of course, we know that's not true, that assets can change over time. They often do. And what happened in the past doesn't guarantee what's going to happen in the future.